Hello, and happy spring to all our friends out there in the financial advisor group universe. Here we have rapid fire number 16. It's hard to sort of sometimes Ben and I were talking 16 seems like a lot, but it also seems like not a lot. So we're working on ways to number 20. But happy spring, Ben. Anything going on, besides just mowing the grass 4 times a week? What's going on in Ben's life these days?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of mowing. I did plant a new tree.
Nice.
So yeah, just getting outside, went kayaking last weekend. A lot of trying to enjoy the nice weather while it's here.
Yeah, I think that's a good, we make our market analogies all the time. It was a good segue into, right? It's part of, we'll talk about sort of this market in a minute, but enjoy the nice weather while you got it, right? Don't question when it's going to change because I know Memorial Day weekend, which we just got through, wasn't pretty. When the sun comes out, enjoy it, right? With the markets, it's that same way. So I guess on the markets, Ben, it's been a little while since we filmed one of these. Where are we? What's our thoughts on things these days?
Yeah, so it's kind of continuation. There's nothing hugely different than before. So it's that same thing we mentioned, consumer and stock market, not exactly in sync. But what we wanted to focus on is something we didn't touch on lately, but just to revisit how the actual companies are doing. So we have a chart, a couple charts actually to show you, and we're going to start with margins because this is what matters. It's not just that sales are going up because sales, like, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's you can kind of artificially pump revenue if you're, marketing and everything. But what actually matters is the profit margins. So this is the S&P 500. It's, largest 500 companies in the US, and the margins on the left, this is the actual margins. On the right is the expected forward looking. But regardless, both you can see the trend. It's up and to the right, which that's a good thing. It can be a little scary when it goes up that fast. But again, this is like the health of the biggest companies that we're investing in, that's in everyone's portfolio. So despite there are some, the consumer doesn't feel the greatest right now, but I don't think this is like a 2001 situation either way because we have really strong corporate balance sheets.
Yeah, and I think it's when I think of profit margin, right? I guess my mind instantly goes to Shark Tank. I'm a massive fan of the show Shark Tank. And Ben, you hit it. One of the first things those guys I picture Mr. Wonderful asking, but Ben, what's your revenue, right? And then they'll ask revenue, but then the most important question is what's your profit margin? Because right, I can have $1 million of revenue selling widgets, but if it costs me $1.2 million to make those, Mr. Wonderful's not giving me an offer, right? So that profit margin number is saying that for every dollar a company in the S&P brings in today, basically 15 to 16 cents of that is pure profit, which we've never seen that number anywhere near that high. So these companies are keeping more of the money as profit. So hence the sharks would be a little bit more interested. But Ben, I have something to throw back at you. Like, isn't all of this just tech driven though? Right? Like if that profit margin's that high, what if you take out the Mag 7, right? These companies that are just unbelievable. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good point because a lot of headlines, headlines get the clicks and the eyes. And a lot of people will say right now, like I hinted at before, it's just, a tech bubble or something like that. Which there's some merit, like there is, that concentration we've talked about before where the leaders are the AI companies. It's
Yep.
NVIDIA, which is making the graphic uh, processors that, are the back end of ChatGPT, all of that. But what we want to do to show you, also for comfort, is just to strip all of that out.
Hmm.
So we're looking at right here, again, two charts, kind of same thing, but we're stripping out tech from the left chart. So this is looking at profit margins again over time. So blue line is what's happened. So it's the S&P 500 again, but we strip out the tech exposure within the S&P 500. So you can
That's
see
impressive.
margins. Yeah, margin, it is impressive. They're improving over time. And then you see with the consensus estimate in the red, so that's looking forward. That's what the, Wall Street banks are expecting going forward. And again, it's still margins are improving uh, outside of tech. And that can still be related to AI. Other companies, and we've talked about this before, there's the initial adopters and then there's the trickle down. Same with the internet. There was, a lot of internet use case wasn't found until years later when then every company started using the internet. And if you're not using the internet today, it's probably maybe you're not maybe your business doesn't need the internet, but I would say it's almost a requirement for most businesses. Um, and
And
then getting into oh
I
yeah,
think it's
go
like
ahead.
the like right when these things get put in place, it's the initial investment, and you hear about the Nvidias of the world. But like you said, Ben, you're finally starting to see that roll out into people actually using AI, which a little precursor to something Ben and I will talk about in a minute, sort of because we get asked that question, how are we using it? But I think that chart on the other side of the screen where it shows net profit margin really just shows it's expanding, right? You're starting to see profit margins expand everywhere. And again, our point isn't to say, hey, the market's right, the market's high. That should get us all a little bit like sort of on our heels. But at the same point, there's a reason. What we just want to get across is if profit margins are this high and revenues are this high, the market should be high, right? It's okay. But we end with that, and I'll get into sort of picking the Ben brain because he's probably our most AI educated employee in the office. But
Curious. AI
curious, which
curious.
AI curious is a good way to put it. But like we started with, when the weather's nice, enjoy it. This market's enjoy it, right? That this is at some point it may rain, but don't get so focused on that. There's a reason the weather's nice. Enjoy it. And that's the point we'd want to get across. So I guess I'll lead you into that, Ben, right? As our most AI curious. I like that term because I think curiosity is what will help everybody learn more about this. I'm curious, Ben, how do we in this office, right? We said companies are starting to use this. Do you want to give some thought as to sort of how we're using AI in our office here today?
Yeah, definitely. And this has also been probably a year since we made a video like this. Again, AI was new and we were like, oh, this is where we think it could be used. But now we're into this enough that we can say confidently, here's where it's used, here's where we're definitely not wanting to use it. Maybe we'll use it in the future, something like that. But just to give you some perspective, this is kind of a framework. So AI, again, it's like any of these technologies, it's usually replacing jobs or tasks that, people don't really want to do, or maybe they're not, the coveted jobs, all that stuff. So it's helping mainly streamline a lot of back end stuff. So that's like note taking in our meetings. You might have heard us use Jump before. Jump is our AI that basically is kind of transcribing. And we'll still take notes in meetings, but it's mainly for like, if we're in conversation, a lot of times we forget to write something down.
Yep.
It also can create workflows for future tasks. So again, it's just,
And all my years of doing this, I've never mastered the ability to listen and write at the same time. So jump fixes that, right?
yeah, yeah, that's a tough one. Real tough. And also with scheduling, again, just taking something and improving the experience, making it quicker, things like that. Software integration, like I said, every software is eventually going to use it, but there's some that are trying to in different avenues. And then just the general research, kind of like Google. I mean,
Yep.
we'll still Google here and there, but maybe we're incorporating like an AI search. Maybe we Google first, check it with AI, or do the vice versa. We, use AI. So I would say we still have training wheels on it.
A good
And
way to put
then
it.
just, yeah, meeting preparation. So again, it's being able to like sort through our CRM and kind of pick out, key things from client meetings previously or tasks or anything like that. So it's a way to just get a lot of data all in our faces at one time without us having to spend, an hour, looking through our online file sharing service, our CRM, our investment portal, all that stuff. And then I'll just conclude where we're not using it. Like again, this is new technology. We're not giving it any clients like sensitive data, no social security numbers, not even account values, nothing like that. There's no direct, link for your personal information, anything like that. And yeah, we're still providing personalized advice, all of that. So there's no investment decisions being made by AI. It's still us. But so those are some use cases.
And I think one of the ways, and you go back and we'll get into this in a little bit of like all the technologies that they roll out. And clients probably hear me all the time reference fire, right? Like fire changed the way people live literally forever. We still use it today, and fire can be used for bad, but imagine a world without fire, right? Like we couldn't exist. It gives us the heat, it creates energy. So I think AI, just every tool can have negatives to it. What I'm excited about is, I mean, we're on the tiptoes in our office, right, of using this by making Ben and I more efficient. What makes me so excited is it gives us the ability to actually dive deeper into deeper issues with clients. So instead of, I wouldn't say wasting, but taking our time to dedicate it to tasks of like getting up to date, making sure my notes are accurate, that gives us more time to dive into things like tax planning. I think it's going to make us better advisors because we can dive deeper into the things that matter to take some of the things that don't matter as much off our plate, if that makes sense. And I'm excited for that. I think this industry, it can make us all better advisors. But
100%. Yeah, and getting into the bigger picture too, because and that's just, how we're using it. Obviously, we're not everyone, so we want to kind of bring this back, zoom out a little, and throughout, any big tech thing, it's all scary. We think, everything's going to get replaced. There's going to be no jobs, so we want to just kind of give some perspective again. So this is just looking at companies throughout different technological experiences. We've had, companies that maybe didn't adapt and got replaced, or maybe, they were once like Amazon was once a book company that did adapt and they're now e-commerce. So, Studebaker, they made horse carriages, and then there was the Ford automobiles. I think Studebaker eventually then turned its course and started making cars. But then
correct.
you had Blockbuster that got
Oof.
taken over by Netflix.
Ben, have you ever stepped foot in have you ever been in a Blockbuster in your life?
I do. I have some fond memories when I was like
Cool. All
very
right.
small, picking out like DVDs.
Those were the
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
That was like tail end of like right before Nintendo started making the Game Boys and all of that.
Yep.
But yeah, so Blockbuster, I think Blockbuster almost bought Netflix at one point or something like that. But then you had Toys R Us that got replaced by e-commerce. Um,
And I think all these, right, there's stories I could go into and all. I think they're fascinating. One of my favorites, as Ben and I were talking about this, is I remember reading through about like technology changes about in the World Fair in 1894, I believe was held in Chicago. And one of the main concerns they had coming into the fair, which I think is sort of comical, is where do they put all the horse poop? Because there were so many horses they needed for the horse and carriages, and that's the way people got around. So they brought all these minds together as how do we fix this problem? Dedicated all this effort to fixing it. And 15 years later, no one cared because the car was around. How fast this stuff can change. And the one there's stories with Toys R Us and Amazon. That's a fascinating storyline. If you listen to a lot of the retailers like Toys R Us, Barnes and Noble, they had an opportunity at one point to actually work with Amazon. Bezos gave them that opportunity, and they all sort of scoffed at it as like, that won't work. And look what happens, right? So things advance. And I'd argue we're better with having cars over horses. We're better with having Amazon, or sorry, Netflix over Blockbuster. We're better with having Amazon over Toys R Us. Now, it's hard, it's different, but I think all those technologies improved things. And I think there's still jobs out there, aren't there, Ben? Like it didn't take away jobs from everybody.
There are, which is a good segue, and there's a lot on here, so you can feel free to pause it and really read into it. But I just wanted to show, like, this is from every, not every, but major technological
It's a
changes. So
good
we had the
slide.
industrial, which basically replaced like farming, agriculture, at least the bulk of it, electricity and cars, internet and AI. And you can see each one, there were some jobs that were disrupted. Like right now. You can see right now it's scary because there's data entry jobs, there's administrative jobs, there's things that are getting replaced. But there's things, as you can see in the bold there, there's jobs that we can't name yet. There are, when we look out 10 years, there's going to be a lot of jobs that we had that aren't even existing right now. That they might be the highest paying jobs, the jobs that people are going to college for. So it is scary. But 60% of jobs, when you're looking back in 1940, 60% of jobs that exist today weren't even a name back
That
in
is a crazy statistic.
yeah. So again, there's I we're always optimistic and we try and keep this podcast or video series a little optimistic. So again, AI has its scary things. It will probably replace some jobs, but I think long term it's going to increase efficiency, maybe help profits, which help stock market returns, and again, hopefully create a lot more jobs that people like to do.
And I think change is hard, right? And I think that's for all of us. I think that's fire changed how people live, right? Amazon changed how people retail. Like AI is going to change how we interact with things, and it's going to change the jobs people have. But I think the statistic of 60% of the jobs today didn't exist, and that 80 years, that's crazy. The other one that I heard this the other day, that there's more technology in the world today than there ever has been in history, point blank, period. Did you also know there's more jobs in the world today than there's ever been in history, point blank, period? Many technologies have come along, and what it's done is created new opportunities. The hard part is we don't, like Ben just said, we don't know what we don't even know what they are, right? Keenan and Liam being in school, that's a hard part, is you better pick a major. I give the example all the time of in 1894, you better hope you weren't going to school to be a horseshoe maker, right? But the writing's on the wall. Don't go to school to be something that might be eliminated. Go to the future. I think I'll end with the famous Wayne Gretzky quote that says, "Skate to where the puck's going to be, not where it is." Right. And I think that's where you have to look at this: is understand the world's changing. Change is okay, and sort of go to where the puck's going, not where it is right now. Um, but Ben, that was super helpful. I mean, I love the way you started this. Would you have any recommendation for clients? Like, I like that be curious with AI type thought.
Yeah, so be curious. And again, we're always here. We're staying curious too. So if you have questions on AI, bring it to us. And if we don't know the answers, we'll probably do some research and try to figure out the answer. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up our thoughts for this month. So maybe go out, mow your lawn because we got a lot of rain at least in southern PA, got a lot of rain last weekend over Memorial Day. So my lawn is in desperate need of some mowing.
We had to mow it twice within 24 hours this week just because it was so hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And last, if for anyone still watching this far in, thank you. But challenge yourself, right? Try out ChatGPT, try out Google's Gemini, which actually they build into their search engine now. So you're probably using it more than you think. Try out Claude. These are great resources just to, like Ben said, be curious. Um, but on that note, hey, happy number 16. We can drive now, Ben. We have 16 episodes in, we can drive.
We're on our
Um,
permit.
yeah, we're on our permit. We hope next time we will be driving. But thank you, as always, for listening, for tuning in. I think we're up to 140 some. We hope to get to, let's shoot for 150 subscribers, and have a great spring. And we'll talk to you again in summer with some good topics coming up.